Okay. We should be live. Hello guys, welcome back to Not Just Maker Live. How are you today? Are we online, right? How is my audio? Let's try here. Oh yeah. Great, great. I'm starting to have some feedback from the chat. Lovely. Guys, you are my heroes because it's summer, it's a Friday, and you are here on YouTube with me. So you are heroes. Great. I'm testing a new setting for audio and video, so tell me if something goes wrong. E ovviamente se c'è bisogno, oggi si parla anche italiano, quindi fate domande e se avete bisogno di chiarimenti ditemelo, che in live possiamo fare queste cose. Nice. Oh, you are a lot. More than 100. Nice. Yeah, don't know if it's too hot. In here we have 19 degrees Celsius and it's a weather that let me wear my beanie. Nice. Oh, even California. It's morning. 40 degrees. No, stay inside is better. Much better. The quality was smoother than last time. Yeah, I upgraded everything. And I think that the final quality of the video, the one that remains on YouTube, should be a bit higher than the last time. I have a better camera, I have better settings, and especially for the audio, I have the big microphone here. Hello from Minnesota. Oh, 35 in UK. Qualcuno da Rimini. Da casa. Australia. Oh, we have the same temperature of Canada. So, guys, I counted the numbers of the public poll, and you can probably tell from the primer on this guy. Yeah, he's the winner. Necrons are still the hot thing of the moment. Padova, Cork, Singapore. Nice. Oh, qualcuno di Ravenna. Okay, so I really wanted to paint this one. That's a really good model. This one was the second choice. That's a beautiful model. I want to check what you can see. I have to switch into OBS to check my focus. Tell me if something is out of focus at every time. This was 3D printed and it was an L to print. You can see all these microscopic bones and details. I had to put a support under every one of them. More than one support. And this was an L. Just to understand the direction to put it on the plate. But that will be for another time. And I'm not really so disappointed that the Necron won, because that should be painted in white, in black, sorry. And yeah, it will be pretty similar to the Black Templar I made in the last video. Maybe with a more reddish undertone, because the chaplains have this kind of really reddish black, almost like old dry blood. Something interesting for the undertones and strange reflections, but the general process will be a chromatic black pretty similar to the Black Templar. So, Necrons today. And I think that this one will be a bit more interesting than the Reanimator. The design of the Reanimator is incredible. And I probably do some conversions on him. I want a couple of them to make something with 8 legs or more. It would be interesting. But this is the model for today. Let's switch back to the chat. Oh yeah, I saved the stream, so you'll be able to see all the steps later. Don't worry at all. Everything will remain on YouTube, so like a standard video. Yeah, the Reanimator is beautiful. It's really beautiful. I want to make something for Skaven using this basic template. Put a huge cloak on him and do something like a strange engineer, something like that. Yeah, or Dark Mechanicus. That could be a great idea. Ten models in 5 hours, we can do it. But I think we can stick to one model in 2-3 hours. That's more realistic. Especially because you asked for a GrimDark version of this. So I had the... I had the time to collect some references, because I want this to follow the reference of an artwork. So you'll see in a moment what I plan to do on him. And I'm really happy for this live stream, because I had a couple of super busy weeks. I have a super secret project that I can talk about. And I hope to show everything in the first part of the autumn. It's that kind of secret. It's a huge thing. And I didn't have really time to put together a video for this week, because I was working at the same time to the video of next week. That will be super interesting. I'll show you a quick preview. Next week we'll talk about these girls here. 1, 2. Oh, let's put them in order. And the topic will be color schemes and light settings, and how they affect the same model, and how you can use them to create different models from the same miniature. So different sensations, different light settings. In this particular case, I put the accent on the general mood and the general sensation of the model. So I want to create 3 different alignments, like if they are models for a roleplay game, where you have the paladin with a super strong light from above. It will be really light and really clean to show a lot of cold and clean colors, with this kind of very precise and very perpendicular zenithal light. Then we have this little switch in light and later in tones, You can see that here the light is coming from above, here is coming from the front of the model, like he's facing a light source, and we have the dark part here. This will be the neutral model. I'll put a lot of colors on air, like a mercenary for hire, with the reflected light here. Probably there will be a secondary light source coming from here. And I want to play on the neutral alignment with the two different lights, balancing the model between light and shadows, or positive lights and super negative sensations in here. And then the evil one. A lot of more shadows all around, light source from below. This will be super interesting. I have still to decide the color of the light source. It will probably be something from the candles, something really soft and warm. But we can debate, maybe something a bit more magical, something more enchanted. But you see that when you see the model from the front, it's almost completely in darkness. You have to tilt the model to see the light coming from here and here. So we have this. Whoa. So this will be just a preview of what will come next. They should be ready in the weekend, so it will be pretty quick, since I have all the plan already in my mind. And I'm completely neglecting the chat. Ooh, there's Thomas. Yeah, the miniatures were perfect. Thanks to your help. Nice. Okay, let's start with something. So, the plan for the Lord. The model is gorgeous. I didn't want to make a base because I have still to understand what I want to do with my Necrons. Oh, from Russia. Hi. Here. I had the Indomitus box yesterday, and I really didn't have time to decide a proper theme, a proper scheme. I'll probably do something a bit more complex with the bases. I want to integrate 3D printing in my workflow for armies. And it will be the first time in a while that I work on something this big. Not in terms of proportions, something like all the Necrons of the box. I hope to have time. And since you asked for a GrimDark version, let's see if I can share my screen. Yup. Ba-bam. So, I tried to collect a few images of the original sketches and artworks and concept arts from John Blanche. Because if we talk of GrimDark and Blanchitsu, well, obviously Blanchitsu, we have to refer to the master. And it's really interesting because usually you saw a lot of weathering and dark tones, and his Necrons are clean. His Necrons are at least super polished. I really love this kind of green. It's not really the fluo green we are used to. It's a bit more like Warpstone. It's a bit more desaturated. So I want to try to catch these sensations. And I love this neutral base, the powerful red, and we can maybe use that glossy, powerful red on the clothes. And this glow from weapons, and it seems like a vapor and gas all around them. This is a great reference. We have a lot of sepia undertones that we can use. to do something like cold lights. They're not really cold. Everything is a bit warm thanks to the green, but the main source of warmth is this light raw sienna, something like that. So I want to do something like that. Something where we can use very light silver and almost pearl tones, strong contrasts, because I want to really push on the dark parts of the models. And probably this is the best example. It's a bit more silverish, but I probably like more this general white sensation here. So let's switch back and I want to see. Yeah, they are really, really organic. I want to know your opinions about this, because you have to like this idea. And I'll move through the chat to see if there are questions. I saw seeing your painting in person at Wayne's Game Day. Oh, there's someone from Sligo. The poor spot. Yeah, I want to collect all your artwork from the Wurspot. No. Whoop, sorry. We were still on the screen. Okay, okay. I'm starting to understand how it works. Be organic look. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I want to use those red tones for something that probably for the cables for sure, to make it like covered in blood or something like an organic fluid. I love the idea of super glossy red clothes, something like that. No, I want to use the green glow to work as a complementary for the powerful red tones. It's something pretty iconic. You have to blend the organic look of Blanche's art. Yeah, I'll probably do this with oils. I want to do a super quick base with the airbrush and then move to the brush to get the sensation of the brush strokes and that kind of movement. Because yeah, the proper Blanchitsu is something different from what we call GrimDark. It's something that is more connected to the artwork. So you really want to get that super sketchy sensation, that nervous trait of the brush. So I understand that is not for everyone. For GrimDark, we intend something a bit more connected to the general sensation of 40K, something that is more in the illustrations, and not necessarily from Blanche, but you know, that creepy look that is not the same that you see in the miniatures that are super pop and bright and saturated. I will use the metal acrylics. Synthetic brushes. No, there is this myth that you have to use super strong synthetic brushes for metals, especially the Vallejo metal. It depends if you use the alcohol-based paints or the standard acrylics. If you use something water-based, the pigment can affect a bit the fibers, but only if you really scrub the brush constantly on an almost dry color. So if you use something that has its own medium inside, a bit of water, there's not a lot of problems. There's another miniature paint or some paint and some Thank you so much. Those are big names, and it's an honor to be between them. Sam Lance is a great, especially for I love his dioramas. Richard Gray is Richard Gray. Can't say anything. Lovely. Okay, so let's start. Well, the factor of me is to repeat. Some question is, how do you quick and get stellar results? That's how to do it quick and get stellar result. Is a book, is not a question. Ragazzi, per gli italiani, ogni volta che Marco parla in italiano lanciamo un'ola di olè. Lo faccio senza preavviso, dico adesso italiano. Okay, let's do something because I talked for 21 minutes and I didn't do a thing. So let's start with something. I didn't prepare anything. I didn't have time. I was so busy in the last week. So this will be a proper impromptu kind of painting. And you'll see a lot of this opening and closing of my drawers. So let's start from something like a brown undertone. Because again, let's switch for a moment to the screen again. I want to catch a super strong difference between lights and shadows. And I want to put the accent on this extreme shine. And to do that, I have to use contrast. Because I don't think to have... Well, I can use white and silver to achieve something like this. But it's much easier to trick the eye using something that creates a lot of contrast between the highest point and the lowest point of shadow. So... and I want to keep it a bit more rusty than this one, at least in these parts. You see this kind of brownish tone. I can add it later with the oils, but I want to start with that kind of sensation already there, so I have a bit of a roadmap for the later stages. So let's switch back to the model and let's do a bit of zoom in and focus. You know, it's really dark because it's completely black, but I think after the first stage it will be much easier to see everything. Maybe like this. I know that you don't want to see my face. It's better to see better. Okay. So I'll try to keep the chat. Yeah, I try. Go to the score there. Oils are great. As a great tool. Yeah, you can airbrush oils. You can put them in airbrush. You have to deal with the smell of the white spirit. There's not really a problem if you have a mask. I always my mask. You can't see this in the videos because I don't show my face too much while painting. But when using something like solvents and heavy stuff, I have always this mask under the table. So if you want to spray oils, be sure to have a mask that can handle solvents and, well, fine dust in general. That's always useful playing with colors and pigments. Okay. So let's start with this kind of brown undertone. I'll probably use, that's burgundy, it's a bit too much. I want to use monochrome paints because they are super matte. And I probably don't have a brown anymore. I have to restock something. Can you hear the sound of my paints? I'm just browsing in the collection. I have to find a way to keep the Molotov in a better way. They are just thrown inside the drawer. Yeah, let's do like this. We can move it later with a bit of ink. Okay. Ooh, this. So, first step. You lose this power if you take it off. No, I said it. The beanie will come off only if I reach the 100k objective. So I want to use a brown. I'll probably go with something darker like this. This is a bit too warm. And that's hazelnut brown. It's pretty dark, very desaturated, and as always with Molotov paints, super matte. That will be the key to create the first contrast. You started loving inks, for real. Okay. I was working before the stream, so probably my airbrush will be clogged or super dirty. And whoop. You want to see my super clean? The key is the movement of the trigger, even for cleaning. And if you have something inside, a stiff brush or a Q-tip. The Q-tip can leave sometime a bit of earth. See how dirty it is. I don't really mind if it's a bit dirty. It's like using dirty water from your cup. It can only add an extra layer of depth and visual interest to what you are mixing. If it's super dirty, like if you have black water to paint and mix white, it's probably better to change it, but for everything else you can just keep it. You'll be surprised how many strange and interesting tones you can do with just that. Yeah, 1 million followers, it's a bit difficult, but sooner or later. I'll try to stay in this world as long as I can, so maybe in the future. When spraying into the well, repeating the edge, but how do you stop spraying back? Oh, so you mean that you are here and you have the back spray. I probably supposed to use the entire white inks, but brush only. Yeah, is it possible to use the Zenithal with brush only and with inks? I did something similar in the video about the dwarf using the gouache that has a consistency that is almost like an ink when you put a few drops of water inside it. Everything with Marcus painting, nice. Okay, so, well, if you have a backfire when you spray inside here, that's probably blocking the stream here. And I have a pretty strong sponge, something very dense here, so I have a bit of spray here in the back, but don't worry at all. Ooh, thanks a million, guys. Thanks for your support. Yeah, the pronunciation in these kind of videos will be what it is. If we try equal line dry inks, any kind of artistic ink is good for our work. They are almost the same in terms of composition. They are all the same stuff. Then, for example, the Liquitex are a bit more transparent than Daleroni. At least the one I have. I have just few paints from the Daleroni line, and they are a bit less transparent, even the proper transparent tones. You can see that I'm not using this a lot. Come on. So the reason for Molotov paints, because a lot of you asked about them, is because they are super matte and they go directly into the airbrush like this. So it's just a way as a commission painter and professional painter to cut some corners in dilution and the preparation step. And you can dilute them because mostly I use them for priming for the first steps. They have this consistency that creates easily dust and dots, but if you use these for priming and for base layers, the coat of paint will be so solid that you don't really mind. So you are still saving time. Okay, let's do a bit of action. Do you want to see closer to the model, or do you want to see a bit more of the airbrush? There's something. This went static. We probably have already a technical problem. Let's see. This is working. This is working. Yeah, last time I had this problem at the end, at least. And we are back. I hope this will not be a constant like the other time. And I still don't have a clue why it's happening. I kept the cameras at the minimum. Okay. Want to see more basic stuff because they don't believe they are capable of wanting to spend the time and money. So now it would be great to see your technique. Great. So let's open a bit, especially because in this stage you'll not see a lot of crazy stuff on the model itself, so you can see a bit more of the movement of the airbrush. And you see that I check the spray here. It's more just to keep the nozzle clean. There's always a bit of paint remaining on the nozzle, so while talking or taking a pause, it's always better to just spray here first and then move to the model, because if you start from here you probably have a bit of paint here on the crown that you want just to project away from the model. But in this case this is not really a huge game changer because we are just base coating. So yeah, I want to paint something super shiny and almost white, but I start with a coat of brown, and this will fix it. It will fix inside all the crevices of the shadows. To give that rusty undertone. It's not really rusty because I choose a color that is come on, don't make me do this in live. It's really cold and dark, so it's not a proper rust, it's just that kind of brownish undertone of the illustrations. And I'm trying to catch the lower parts, but it's not really the main objective, because I'll probably go even the upper parts to really go inside the detail. So I'm not looking for a directional application, but I want to go inside the lines. Again, it's something that if you want to really speed paint, you can do later with the oils or a wash. But I prefer to layers the tones on top of the others to have a bit more of visual interest, because the tone that I apply later with the oils or washes, I still have to decide it. It will be different, and everything you do on the model in a way or another, even if it's super subtle, will be on the model at the end. So don't be afraid of an extra step, even if at the end, in the balance of the painting, seems not super useful. It will be there, be something extra. You see that I move from this kind of spray, just and the open constant one. Usually while priming, I spray more like this, keeping the trigger and moving just the quantity of paint. But when I want precision, the spray is more like, and is doing like this because it's empty. With this kind of movement of the trigger, you'll be more precise, because you have to worry only about that single of paint. There are so many factors playing together when you spray that even just the lateral movement, or you see, the little quantity of inertia in the movement creates a bit more paint, let you leave a bit more paint in the last part. And it's precisely like when you use the brush, and speaking of glazes, for example, you push the tone on one side, because when you lift the brush, you leave the big quantity of paint. And with the airbrush it's the same, because you are moving the beam of paint, and you are projecting it with a certain amount of force and momentum. So when you move the airbrush, you see that the ending part tends to be a bit more dense, a bit more opaque. So even this kind of movement and directionality is super important. And if you need precision, it's always better to work with little dot of paints that later become a uniform layer of paint, instead of trying to do it in a constant way, because you are spraying constantly, so there's always a bit more in one spot or another, because you are not able to do to use the same quantity of speed and force at every time. And I was really trying to do that, but you see that at the end, in these 2 points, I have my higher quantity of paint and a more opaque layer. So I'm switching from OBS to the chat, because I see better if we are in focus. So tell me if I was missing something. What tone of Molotov? La tonalità di Molotov è Hazelnut Brown. Hazelnut. Nocciola. And for my compressor, I spray with an high pressure. I stay always between 36, 39 psi. something like, I do the conversion, 2.5, 2.7 bar should be, because it's divided by 14 and something like that. I like to stay on that higher pressure. It's super personal, but with higher pressure you have a more concentrated and more precise beam of spray, and it's difficult to control from the trigger, and that's the training you have to add. On your set of skills, but if you succeed in controlling the tire spray, you gain something that even working with a nozzle 0.3, you can still do details on small miniatures, 28 millimeters, something like that. My suggestion is always to start doing experiments at 2 bar. Then you can increase the pressure little by little. You have to stay a bit lower if you are using something like the Harder and Standback Infinity, that is a 0.15 nozzle, and that's super small, so probably a bit less pressure. I think it's easier to control, and it's a compensation between the caliber of the nozzle and the pressure you have. Only in that case. But if you work with an 0.2, 0.3, use something above 2. Okay, so it's probably more than enough. I didn't want to reload the airbrush with the same color, but I think that I stayed more in the lower part, but all the meaningful details of the upper part are in this kind of brown. Again, I don't want this to be a proper speed paint, so I'm not cutting corner. With an infinite system to stop the quantity of color of the rear part. Thanks a million, Julian. Thanks. My airbrush is an Iwata HPBH. It's, I think, one of the most professional kind of tools. Something that it's, in terms of spray, in terms of precision, is pretty similar to. You can do the same stuff with an Evolution and paying probably half of the price, but you see how grimy it is. The beauty of this one is that you don't really need anything, any specific or. You need a lot of care, a lot of attention. So I use, usually I use or isopropyl alcohol or the airbrush cleaner from Iwata Medea. And it's in the same bottle, but in this case, this is isopropyl. I prefer the cleaner because it has also a bit of soapy effect inside, and it's a bit lubricant on the trigger. But as you can see, I'm almost at the end of the bottle, so I switched to my isopropyl. It's basically the same stuff. There is a bit more water and a couple of extra ingredients, but almost the same, especially for the effect. Okay, so let's move to the silver tone. And again, I switch to OBS to check my focus. Tell me if you can see well the model, because I have a limited perception of that. So, you know that for this kind of works I love, you see the tube is super used. Vallejo Metal Color Duraluminium. It's a very neutral tone. It's like a light gunmetal, and since it's not too light, it's not too dark, it's perfect for everything that is a mid-tone, a first layer, something like that. Just to be sure. Okay, so let's focus just a bit, since we talked already about the airbrush technique. I'll try to stay inside the shot, but I want you to see what's happening. So we are at the very beginning of the work. Okay. And this is the studio version of the Everlasting Wet Palette. Is the big one. Color with necrons, which is just a brighter silver as a little coat. Well, it depends. It depends on the scheme you want to create. For I like to mix the silver with other colors, and I don't really like to go up in the value using another silver. So I had a huge collection of metal paints, but I'm using the same two colors all the time. That is that are this one and Scale 75 Trash Metal. That is almost the same tone but thicker. So I can switch in the various situations where I need a bit of compatibility between this super fluid and the thicker one. Okay. Zenithal. Sure. I can increase the gain of the microphone if needed, because it's at the minimum. Tell me if it's a bit better. The microphone is super powerful, so I have to keep it to the minimum. Let's try like this and tell me what is the audio output. Okay, so let's do not a zenithal. Let's do with this something a bit more dramatic. I have to stay on a set of tones and light positioning that is a bit more dramatic. But since it has to be moved constantly on the table, I want this to be pretty standard in terms of lighting. Dramatic sunrise. Great. Audio sounds good. And let's do a classic 45 degrees. And you see that even if I'm spraying everywhere, I'm still trying to maintain that kind of attitude with the trigger. It just at the end, when you spray with the airbrush, you are spraying a super dense quantity of microdots. So if the point of impact is a bigger dot, let's say that, just an extension of what the airbrush is doing by itself. And a lot of you ask me about spray booth and overspray. You see that the table is almost perfectly clean, and even the black base is not really hit by paint. And that can seem counterintuitive working with this kind of high pressure, but high pressure makes the color to go precisely where you want. So the quantity of overspray is really minimum, even if I'm spraying really closely to the base. And I'm not going completely in the lower part. I'm doing something like this. This is more like not perpendicular, parallel to the ground. Let's do even the close. Yeah, even the close. Because I want to use the shine of the close to make something cool with the gloss red. So, a rusty undertone. And a first layer of silver. And in this case you have a pretty standard and boring Necron. The Necrons are one of those armies, if you use this kind of scheme, that can be painted in half a day, a full army. Let's see. Let's see. Not worry about your desk, man. Worry about your lungs. Yeah, the point is, if the spray doesn't arrive even here, it means that there's almost nothing in aerosol. And as I told you, when I have to spray a larger volume of paint or a larger volume in general, I have the mask under the table. So don't worry at all. I'm the first one being super precise on this. And we have an Italian question. Per acquisire precisione immagino alcuni che sia la pratica, come dicevi. Yeah, to increase your precision, you have to practice. Yeah, the trick of the pressure is a huge game changer, but you have to practice. Because you gain immediately a really steady beam, something that doesn't create a lot of overspray and a lot of dots. But then you have that pressure to be controlled here on the trigger. So if you open it too much, you have a lot of spiders and a lot of flowing paint, especially if you use something this fluid or something like inks. And my pressure, again, it's in this moment, I check it again to be sure that I'm not saying lies. Yeah, it's 38, something like that. 37, 39, usually. And, well, let's do the blade. I can use the shine for some transparent effect, and if I don't need it, it will be something like a simple highlight. I can use a bit of matte varnish to kill it. Okay. Yeah, it's more than enough. I want to do also a bit of just a mist down here. Let's do a zoom in, because at the moment I think that from this distance you see just a silver Necron, and it's a silver Necron, super classic. But if you move it, you see that kind of It's shaded. It's not really shaded, but the brown remained inside these crevices here. It's probably difficult to see it in camera. See? It's here, it's subtle. It's inside the deep lines, and in all these places like a subtle undertone. And it just, it was a super simple step, but in person I can assure you that it can add a lot of depth. And here we have only two colors, so we have all the shine of the silver, adding a lot of natural reflections, but I want to control them a bit more. It always depends on for what you are painting. And my goal is always to paint for real life viewers. You can push the limit of your painting for pictures, and it's a good idea if you paint just to share the pictures. So you are focusing your painting style on your main way of sharing. But yeah, I want to have beautiful models on the shelf. I want that on the field, and when someone open a box with my model inside, has the wow effect. And I love to have the comment, oh, it's better in real life than in pictures. That for me is the best kind of compliment. Okay, so make you buy more paints. Yeah, it became my main job, make you buy paints. Iwata Revolution. Iwata Eclipse is a good starting point, yeah. I'm not sure. The Iwata Eclipse is the one with the 0.3 nozzle, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I don't like to work with an 0.3. You can do it, but 0.2 is better. You can do more details, you can prime everything easily, and the time you need to prime models with an 0.2 is exactly the same, so go with an 0.2. Quick clean. And let's start doing something serious. And spray. Patriot 1 of 5. I never used the Patriot. I'm a fan of harder stand-back airbrushes as an entry level. And they are cheap, they are easy to maintain, they are easy to control. They have the big one-piece nozzle that it's super easy to take off and to clean. You don't need keys, screws. So if you want something easy to handle in the cleaning step, goes with something like that. Okay. So I want to start increasing the value of this silver. And for these, let's make it simple. I don't want to overcomplicate something in live. White ink. White ink and duraluminium. I want to arrive to that kind of finish that is difficult to say from, is obviously an interpretation of the artwork. If it's a super shiny light silver or something more like pearl, or even matte, because from the pictures could be even matte. But again, I want something really light that I can later use as a base for my dirt and for my effects. 1, 2, a mixing brush. I probably use too much silver, but that could be. That could be. So I'm leaving the shine in the midtones because it will be something like a non-metallic metal. But no, I definitely used too much silver. Let's do something like this. It's much easier to start from a white base. If you don't want to use too much white to compensate a tone, start with white. Yep, something like this. Super light metallic gray. And I want it a bit more transparent, so thinner. That's simple. Airbrush thinner. Because the metallic paint, it's already opaque by itself. It's really covering. Same thing for the white ink. Let's check here what we have. It's a bit too opaque. So, easily we can add more thinner. Focus. I prefer to show you the covering power and the opacity because you saw that I don't have a clue of how many drops I used. And every time is different because a couple of drops, of extra drops of white ink, and I have more opacity, so it's, or we are super precise, keeping track of everything. Yeah, much more like this. If you use it in quantity, it's covering, but you see that if you spread it in a thin layer, there's this kind of transparency here. Yeah, probably it's easier to understand here how much of the black remains. Okay. Go back. Focus again. I can use the big. And switch back to YouTube. Yeah, the video will remain on YouTube. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think for Europe, if you need the little plates, at the moment AK Interactive is the main supplier. The price is honest and definitely the best source if you don't want to go on eBay or AliExpress or something like that. But I have to be honest with you guys. My favorite tool for this job are not these. I use these because they are easy to film, because you see that super thin walls. You can have the camera with a lower angle and still see inside the cups, but my favorites are these candle holders. This is glass. The base is almost the same. Volume on the bottom is always the same. The walls are not so high, so you don't have a lot of loss of paint here, and you can wash these forever because that's proper glass. While these, after a while, they have like a protective layer on top. And let's see if I have an old one. You have something like this effect around here. You have the layer peeling off, and they can easily rust after that. So you can probably wash them 5-6 times, and then you have to throw them away. So they are not eternal, even if they seem metal. So you can wash them forever in theory, but go with the candle holders. They are much better. They are not easy to film, but they are better for the real work. I renewed the brush and tool to trigger sticking. Yeah, if you have a problem with the trigger sticking, and I think that you mean that the trigger stops somewhere in between this movement. If it sprays, it means that you don't have a clog here in the front part. So the problem can be in the back part here, where you have the chamber where the hair comes inside the airbrush, and the back part where there is the O-ring. Probably you have a bit of color inside this back part if you think that the spring is not giving you back the trigger. So this will be my, I don't like to call it first light, because it implies that there is a limited numbers of steps or precise number of steps, but let's call it a light. And I use the same direction of the first one. Again, the first one wasn't really directional, but I recovered that later. You see, probably the difference is subtle, but that's a proper metallic white. And you don't need to buy a lot of metallic paints, because at the end it's a bit of paint, colored paint inside a metallic base, especially if you start with something with a mid-value light silver like this one. You can alter it. You can't really make it brighter. Yeah, I totally cheated using white, but you can make it easily darker or toned in some ways. Okay. Yeah, you see, I'm starting to have some contrast here. It's not super powerful because I started from a mid-tone. I don't even consider in the count the first layer of brown. That was only to give a sensation. It's not in the structure of lights and shadows. This is the first real stage when I'm starting to create a value contrast. But we can totally tell that I started from the beginning building a tonal contrast. Between, even if it was really desaturated, but still warm tone from the brown and the cold tone of the silver. I use a 45-degree angle for everything because again I want this kind of dramatic wargaming light, so it doesn't really follow completely the rules of a proper light. Is still a bit poetical license and cheating. I always try to create a really realistic light for models that will be on the shelf, and I'll cheat always a bit on models that have to be moved around. So if they have this kind of dynamism, I'll try to use a general light that can work on 360 degrees. We'll use the contrast with transparent white ink, as the metallic was already there. Oh yeah, because that's a nice question. Why I used the white mixed with metallic paint instead of doing directly the white? Because in this case, if I use a transparent white, the transparent layer will fuse with the layer I already have, and I'm trying to find the right words. The general value I obtain with this layering of transparency can't be this bright. So I needed the covering power of a proper lighter silver with white to get an higher level of not shine but value, an higher value. And using a transparent white, or just white from the pot that is a bit transparent, on top of the silver, to build this kind of covering power, I had to literally cover what I have. So I have a proper white. Here I have this kind of grayish, light, metallic, non-metallic sensation. Again, it's subtle, but it's a very different finish when you see the model. And this little step gives me also the space, the virtual space, to add something lighter with proper white. And in that way I'll have different layers showing the brown, the proper metallic, this kind of metallic gray, and the proper opaque white. Another quest, I could do the contrast, okay. I tried to replicate blue, orange, chromatic black tenor, but it came a very dark blue or purple. Well, yeah. It depends on the concentration on the question is about the chromatic black made with blue and orange. It depends on the concentration of pigment you have in the paint. Like if you do it with something like Kimera Kolors, it's super easy to obtain the black. You have to fight a bit against the mix with the inks, so you have to find the perfect balance between the orange and the blue. And it will change. I don't know if you are using something like phthalo blue, green shade, or red shade. Like with the green shade, the jump into the chromatic black is a bit more, is a bit easier, because you have a tone that is a bit more contrasting with the other. While with the red shade you have already that bit of violet sensation inside that unbalance the mix on the warm side. What do you think about a purple or bluish oil wash on these types of metals? I would use different color. Oh yeah, a purple, blue on top. Well, any kind of colored wash on top of a neutral metal can be interesting. So don't limit yourself. Don't limit your fantasy. If you do something like purple and blue, as you said, it will be like overheated metal, something like that. You'll have that kind of sensation from the metal. Where you can buy the Kimera Kolors. If you want the Kimera, I suggest you, and I say this also in Italian, to join the Facebook group of the Kimera Kolors, to have a notice of when they will come out, and go with the original website, the Kimera website. Now they have few retailers like Element Games, and I think also PK Pro, but they don't have always the stock. So if you want to be sure, join the Facebook group, because every time a new batch will come out, you'll have a notice, you'll have the announcement before the official one on their website. I think now it's more visible, this white tone. Yeah, nice. PK Pro. Nice. I use PK Pro for everything. It's one of the best in Europe. And if they have it, you can totally go with them. You see, it's whitish, but not really white. We're starting having in the lower parts this kind of shading from sepia to white. Again, for people that joined us only now, I'm trying to do something like this. That's why I'm pushing so much on the white tones instead of using directly light silver colors. I want to create something more similar to this. Well, probably the concept was to have a super bright and shiny silver, but the white of the paper suggests that it's or super shiny or almost pearl white. So I want something like that. Even if it means that I have to renounce to a bit of shine. But I can create the illusion of shine using non-metallic techniques. Okay. So you should be again on my table. This girl from GrimDark for even the black undercoat, I don't get a great effect. Never tried Mystic Gold. Never tried. Yeah, why not? We can do a Blanchizzo project for the Paint Club. Again, as I said at the beginning, is not for everyone. I understand that is a super specific kind of style. You love it or you hate it. At least in my experience, I saw people divided in this way. Extreme opinions on Blanch's style. When I share for lots of work, I can try. I see you get that brush. Oh, would you get the same effect combining white ink with metal medium? Yeah, well, why not? For the ink itself, Daleroni white ink, it's a white ink. It's the same of the Liquitex one. I prefer the Liquitex just because it's easier to find around here, and it's yeah, I'm used to buy that one. And for the metallic medium, yeah, you can try it, but I prefer to alter the colors instead of using metallic medium, using proper metallic pigments. It's probably the same, you'll have the same kind of result, but I don't have to buy another product. I have a ton of metallic paints, basic silver tones, so I prefer to use those and don't buy other stuff. Said by a painter that loves to buy products and mediums and specific kind of tools. But again, if something is really overdoing, yeah, you can mix Liquitex gouache with the scale color. They're water-based, so they are completely compatible. Yeah, Necrons are really ideal for color shifting. And again, if you use inks over metal like I did on the Cypher Lords, you'll get incredible effects, still maintaining the full control of the color spraying, because color shift paints assume that you are giving up some control. You're still giving up a bit of control when you do something like these effects, but I like to maintain the sensation, the color sensations in a certain spot. So if I use something like the color shifting colors, you have that kind of moving organic effect, but it doesn't depend on your planning, or if I really want to show something greenish here, something that really catch the attention with this precise angle, it's difficult to do it. You have to compensate with other layers to create the absence of reflection on those spots. So better to use something transparent instead of using proper color shifting colors. Okay. Space Marine in true metallic metal. It's something that is coming. Is becoming popular now. There are few painters on Instagram, especially, that are doing some really beautiful ultramarines and blood angels with super glossy tone through metallic metals. They're really nice. Okay, let's move this tone. Before doing the lights, you see that when I work as outside a proper plan, I move on feelings and visual needs. I think it's time, more than adding extra highlights, to add some shadows. And since we are going in the highlights with not matte, but more opaque effect, non-metal effect, I can probably push a bit more on the shiny on the lower parts, still keeping a bit of the rust sensation later. Let's do something like So I don't want to put too many colors in here. So let's see between the browns something that can do the job. I don't want to start directly with Burnt Umber because it's a bit too dark. And I don't think it will be able to deliver in a proper way the rust sensations. Maybe Raw Umber or Burnt Sienna. Let's see. I'll show you the options and we can think about them together. Raw Umber. So, here are my thoughts, because I think that's... And you can tell me I'm wrong if you don't like this part, but I think that's the most useful part of a guided paint job. So I want to push a bit more on the shadows and the rusty undertone. Still keeping in mind that I want to create the sensation of the sepia undertone from Blanche's sketch. So, Burnt Umber, you know that it's one of my favorite tones. And judging from the bottom, it seems quite reddish, but when you put it on the palette, it's still reddish, but it's more like a desaturated mahogany brown, something like that. It has a strong note of warm red tones, but nothing like Burnt Sienna. That's much more powerful for that. You see that when you see this one by itself, it's quite reddish, but nothing compared to this one. That's much more orangey. So I think that will work better for my main idea. Then Raw Sienna, it's yellowish by definition. If you want a GW reference, Raw Sienna, it's Snake by Leather. It's the same color. With the fancy fantasy name, but it's the same color. More yellow. We can use it as a mid-tone in reality, because a lot of... as a generic sepia. That could be an idea. While Raw Umber tends to be a bit more greenish. That's much darker, and you see that when you spread it you have this green undertone. So the real one that probably doesn't fit our idea is Burnt Umber. We can work with this. And since we are talking about a first shadow, let's start with Raw Sienna. This will add that sensation of the transparent sepia over the white paper. It will be almost invisible here, because to be sure I want to push it just to start in the lower parts. That's a trick to be sure that a tone can fit in your scheme. Starting from here, I know that I'll use darker tones later, so I can risk with something that is not really... I'm not really sure that can work. But I'm pretty sure about this one. And this yellowish sensation will push the warm tones of the lower parts it will probably be covered mostly by the other tones. But again, there's everything you do on the model will remain at the end, even if it's just a millimeter. Oh, let's see, maybe this is better. Even if it's just a little tone in a needle spot. Okay, I know it's not what you are looking for when painting an army, but maybe an hero. Or if you want to start working with something a bit more for the shelf and for the guests at home. And the beauty of this is that I'm not losing anything of the shiny of the metal, because I'm working with colors that tend to be super glossy when built up in a couple of layers. Yeah. I have a first modulation. You have this dirty. It can be a reflection for the base. I like to reason with the setting, with the base, so I'm probably committing to a base that is not even there. The base should have this kind of warm tones, because on this shiny metallic surface, if you have an undertone coming from below, it's probably a reflection from the ground. But again, I was trying to replicate an artwork that doesn't really have a ground. Well, it has a bit of ground in there. It has a sepia line underneath the silhouette of the model, but we can definitely consider that a base. See, it's subtle, but the difference is there. And sorry if I'm late with the comments, but I'm keeping another video source to be sure that everything is in focus. So I have to check later. Question on primers in contrast paint. Specifically, I noticed that... they're shifting. Specifically, I noticed that you used matte medium with inks, namely white in zenith highlight step, with a purely to kill the loss. Yeah, when you see me using a matte varnish inside white ink, 99% of the reason is to kill the shine. And I do it in the zenithal priming, so I have a layer that doesn't have a finish that can influence everything else later. So yeah, just to kill the shine. To clean the nozzle of dry and paint and prevent floating the model paint because of a clog. Yeah, it's an habit. Why I spray constantly outside the screen, just doing psh, psh. It's just an habit. I probably don't need to do this with this Iwata. It's really a beast for this kind of things, but it's an habit that I took when using cheaper brushes and never fails to unclog the airbrush. I think the airbrush vid, yeah, 36-39 psi. Just knowing the stream out about the brown tones from below and blue tones from the top. Yeah, it's an idea, but I'm not looking for a chrome finish. Well, at least not a proper chrome. Not a reflective chrome. I want to create something like an illustration that I show you again later. So I want something like paper white on top. And I'll think later about the possibility of making it completely matte. To really be like white paper. Again, for this kind of projects, I really think that it's important to decide what is the objective of your painting. You see that in this case, I avoided all the reasoning that I use in the videos about where is the model, what is the environmental light, which are the environmental shadows, because I had a reference. I had a super strong reference and I'm copying that. So we can retro-engineering that kind of decision, but since I'm working to copy that, there is a lot of there's a lot of decision making and problem solving, but if you really take a look to the illustrations, you know where and what to do. And there was an interesting question here that was how I decide where apply the tones. Well, this for me is not even a first shadow. It's more like, well, let's call it first shadow, because I don't want to overcomplicate philosophically this work. Let's call it first shadow. So I'm trying to hit all the parts that in general are not facing my main light source. So my main light source was a 45-degree beam coming from this side. So I'm lowering the model for everything that is in this cone of light from here. I'm not sure that you can see it here with the finger. Coming from here. So like here on the arm, I'm tilting the model so the shadow is below. And I'm extending everything. I try to imagine a proper beam of light coming from here. It's probably an extension of what I do spraying with the airbrush, where I try to imagine where the beam of colors will hit the models. But with that in mind, keeping always in mind what is your main light source, the placement of the shadows is super simple, because it's everywhere that light is not super intense. And since it's not, this is not a deep shadow, but just a light one, full of tones, you can extend it even in the highest parts, where you have something like a spot going inside the model. While here on top, totally exposed to the main light, I want just to keep the white. Oh guys, it's a pleasure. It's the streaming is something that I really wanted to do, not only because I had a huge amount of work in the last couple of weeks, but because I totally missed this part. I really wanted to reconnect a bit with you, because since I came back to the channel 2-3 months ago, after the birth of Diego, I just went on with my plan and with my ideas for the channel, but you know that I want to make this a conversation, and I don't really care about the numbers. I'm happy when there are new followers, and it means that that the channel is healthy and is going well, but the main objective is to deliver something that means quality and that you can be interested in, but the main objective is that I want to be satisfied of the content. Most of the times is the content of a video is something that I really wanted to know a few years ago. So all the airbrushing stuff, that was really because of that, because I'm conscious that if I had something like that a couple of years ago, my learning process would have been so much easier. So I really want to know your opinions about what we are doing on the channel, because again, you know that I try to respond, to reply to every single comment, and to have an active conversation with you all. Also because being a commissioned professional painter sometimes can be a lonely job. How is balancing hobby time with the newborn going? Well, for me, it's not really hobby time, so it's work time. So in a way or another, I have to find the time for that. At the moment, I'm lucky because my wife is still in maternity leave, but between the end of September and first days of October, we'll start to be in a new unexplored territory for real. Where will be only the two of us together at home. So again, I tend to lose myself in this stream of consciousness, stream of words, but I really want to know what you want to see in the future. Because I'm worried that in this moment I'm being a bit on my tracks, or I have this plan and I want to push it. I'm also trying to add more my passions inside the channel. In the first days it was more that's super mainstream, so I'm a bit hypocrite in this kind of reasoning, but yeah, I want to go back a bit more on also roleplay games, not games, roleplay models, something like that, something more on the single character. We'll see. Okay, so we have this kind of yellowish undertone here. I had the base of hazelnut brown, let's call it with this commercial name, that was able to connect these brownish tones pretty easily. That's another reason why I put that undertone down there. You see that is going up. It's not really limited on the shadows. It's a shadow, but it's a first shadow, so it's a bit of that everywhere. So let's start going down, adding a shadow. You see that my shadows are never only to lower the value, but they've always a meaning for an effect or a visual element of the model. Like in this case, I want to lower the value, but I'm switching to something warmer because I want to start adding in the very lower parts the reddish tone for the rust. And at the same time, I'm lowering the value in two ways, not only using a darker color, even if the value is, well, it's definitely darker, but not so much. But with the overlapping of these tones in the lower parts that were already a bit darker, the shadows will be more and more intense every time. Okay, a little bit bust, large model. Oh yeah, I have to go back to large models and busts. This year was super strange because of the pandemic. I was ready to paint a ton of display models and busts, and they are all here sitting on my table. I have this one from the beginning of the year. I started a Samus from the female warrior from the Black Sun miniatures. I have the shark sitting here for ages, but yeah, without the competitions I didn't have the inspiration for those. Probably wasn't a great move because next year I'll have to paint double of everything just to stay on track with all the events. But yeah, when you don't have a real motive to do that, it's difficult to keep the attention of those kind of models. But you'll see a lot of large models. The large figures, I'm working on them in background, and proper display models like 75 millimeters. Then to the pattern. I know you're already streaming. Do you have a question of PSI pressure? Do you keep PSI at when you do lower pressure? What do you keep PSI at and when you do lower pressure? I lower the pressure to do specific effects, because if you lower the pressure, you obtain. We can see it. And one of the beauty of the Iwata HPBH, I don't want you to buy this, but I have to show you why it's a great airbrush. That you have an extra pressure gauge here. So you can move this stable stream here to something super dirty. It's still super stable. Okay, probably with inks is not a better example. With this I'm increasing the pressure. So you see that I'm starting to obtain the overflow and the spiders. While on this side, I'm lowering the pressure. And when you lower the pressure, you start seeing the dots. And you can feel this like, you can consider this like a bad side effect, but if you need something like a super fine texture, you just put down your pressure and you obtain this kind of super dotty effect. That could be dust, could be weathering, could be even the texture of some materials. If you want something like a thick kind of fabric, thick kind of wool, that could be something that you want to see on the model. Or in large model, that's super interesting. This is used to obtain the texture of a skin. You know, the micro dots and almost the cells of a skin. So if you have a big portrait, something like this, or something, I have this all the time because I'm studying the subject. Something this size, 1/6 scale. If you want to obtain a realistic kind of skin, that's the way to go. So I move the pressure to obtain different effects. And with this setting here, that's my knowing my airbrush. With this here, I have the output of the compressor. So with this, I don't have a different resistance. So when you look the pressure gauge on the compressor, you see exactly the reading that I want. That is 38, between 36 and 39, something like that. Okay, so let's go back to the main topic. I missed some stuff. Plastic toupee. I don't know if it's a Richard Gray trick, but this is how I do it. And it's extremely simple because with this trick you have an extremely precise kind of dotting, something that is impossible to do with brush or any other technique. Upgrade to an harder and stand back infinity. yeah, Artis Infinity is a good airbrush, but I don't like to work with a 0.15. It's a personal opinion. I think it's an overkill, and most of the time I have and I have an Infinity. Most of the time is it creates more problem than solving them. Okay, so I have my what did I use? I used raw amber. No, Barsiana. It's so reddish. Can be only Barsiana. To go not only in the shadows, but since this is rust, I want to insist a bit more in the joints between the armor plates. So double function. And after the first stage of shadows, everything becomes simpler and simpler, because if you put the shadows or your sensations, doesn't really matter if they are shadows or environmental sensations, but if they are well placed, you need only to work inside them. So I saw a lot of people overthinking their shadows, but when you set your first one as a general shape, as a general shape, because at the end is a flowing shape around the model, you have just to work inside what you have. You don't have to invent anything. And I think that's why I'm able to be really fast in the secondary stages. You see that in my videos I always tend to maintain the proportions of time I spend in the various steps, to give you also a sensation that the various stages, even if they are speed up, they have their own weight in the balance of the job. Except for the brush work at the end that I always tend to skip in the models, but just because I think it's boring in terms of what happens in the unity of time. And don't get me wrong, I love the brush. For me, that's the tool. And I hope that I showed that in the videos about the 3 colors, the limited palette. Those are the real skill to get under your skin. Because at the end, everything you do with the airbrush is an extension, and a deformation of what you do with the brush. Is an adaptation. How's it going? He's starting to gain more character. And the contrast is not so high. Again, is not a good thing in general. But since the objective is to be faithful to the illustration that doesn't have... it does have a couple of striking contrasts, but it's not really the contrast we are used to in miniatures. It's not that kind of super progressive and super intense contrast. So I want to be faithful to that. So let's check again. I don't want to leave you alone. The inks are used from the bottle. I diluted only the first tone, the white, grayish silver, because I needed more transparency. For the inks, I use dilution only if the work is extremely difficult and I'm not really sure about my control over on a very difficult spot. And I suggest on every lesson in person or online to my students to add a lot of thinner and maybe also glaze medium to balance the mix to make it more controllable. But if you have a good control over the trigger, you don't need anything else using something like inks. It's a matter of control. You can create transparency spraying the right quantity of paint on the model. So in this case, I'm going with it's personal. My personal workflow without dilution. They're already a bit transparent, but if you want to be super sure, add a bit of thinner. You'll need a couple of extra layers. It's like the well-thinned paint for the 2 thin coats, but it's not mandatory, not even with the brush. Okay, I think this is almost everything I need. I have to insist a bit more here inside the joints. And again, I can do this easily later with oils. It could be washes or thick paint, but is not taking a lot of effort or time. And the tone that I'll apply with oils or anything else, I'm talking about oils because it's a natural choice for me, but that tone will be different. It will be another color. It will be a completely different kind of finish. And all this information will fuse together. So I really like, even if they are similar and overlapping, to leave them. And this is taking a bit more than usual because I'm talking like a maniac. But yeah, it's a pretty easy and quick thing to do. So thanks a million, guys. Better. Thanks a million, noob painting. No, noob painting? I want to quote you in the proper way. Noobs Painting Minis, RJ. Thank you so much. Thanks a million. Sorry, I missed the start. Yeah. No, brown base, metallic, almost all over there to have a brown undertone. Then I used white mixed with metal to obtain a whitish, grayish kind of metallic highlight. And then I went down in the shadows working with first raw sienna and then bar sienna to have first a yellowish sepia tone like the ones on the illustrations, and then a more rusty reddish undertone. Okay. I want to close the shadows, but I also want to add the highlight. See, that's the organic kind of painting that I like to show and I like to teach. Is not really compatible with the videos, or at least with the edited video is not really easy to explain that you made all this thinking in the middle of painting. It seems always a more straightforward, step by step, something more organized and schematic. While in this case, I can easily go with the shadows, but I'm sure that I want a super bright note and super light note in the highlights. So it's probably better in this case. Guys, thank you so much. Joshua, really, thank you for the heart. It means so much over the last few months. Spring of the day. Have a good day and have an awesome weekend. So I was saying, I'm always embarrassed by your generosity, guys. Thank you so much. I was saying that since I know that I'm going with lighter lights, it's probably better to do those right now, so I can understand better the progression and the flow. Just noobs. Oh, that's a lovely idea. Sometimes it's strange because I always posted all my crappy stuff from the beginning, but I can understand that sometimes it's difficult to publish your stuff when you are a beginner and you want a beginner environment to discuss and to be more between people with the same level. Oh yeah, all these techniques work extremely well with large models. They are easier to do on large models, and most of my techniques comes from those kind of models. I used to paint huge anime girls, big robots, and 1/6 scale, 1/8 scale, and what I was saying, tanks. I had a moment where I was all about tanks, so yeah, they work extremely well on big models. So let's mix our light. We can start from here. I think that's the best thing of this. No! That's the problem of being Italian. You move the hands too much. That's the beauty of live streaming. Done. And to avoid showing my dirty hands, I'll use my super fancy black gloves. Yeah, I'll bring Max on the channel for sure. Yeah, the garage kits. I'm working on Thor, and it's crazily difficult. Not about the painting, but all the building part. I have to invent a system to put the LEDs. It will be a super interesting video. So I was saying before, spraying everything all around. Feel less clumsy all of a sudden. Yeah, this is stuff that really happens in the real work. So I want to use this tone here to mix my lighter tone. I don't want to jump directly to white. Again, because I don't want to do the white immediately. Or better, I don't want to do the white with the airbrush. I probably want to leave some space for the brush work with the pure white. So I'm using this as a base. I'm using this as a base. It's still it's still very light, but not real white. Sexy, eh? This is an illusion of white, because real white, let's see, we can see a proper so no, too greenish. I have to find something. Oh, let's use the glove. These gloves are already super handy. If I can show you the difference. And again, advanced painting relies a lot of these on these little differences. I'm not sure that the camera is really catching the color in the super precise way, so that's what I mixed. And let's clean the brush. I hope that you are able to see the difference that I see in person. And that's proper white. It's subtle, and part of the similarity is that they are transparent, so they are showing the black glow, but take a look here where it's denser, it's not as white as this one. And this is because I want to do this step with the airbrush, and I want to leave some space for the brush. So I'll not use proper white ink to do the maximum highlight. I want to have a bit of space to use something that is a proper super bright white with the brush. So I can do textures and dots and scratches, still having the space, the visual space to make it look at something happening on top of that. And that's little difference. It's something huge when you have to paint details that are still are very fused inside the general tone you have, but you are still able to see them. Okay, I think that's, we don't need the glove right now. So, airbrush. My white. And this time I didn't check, but again, experience. I know that the transparency is something that I can handle. Whoop. Ooh, another great topic. Thanks a million, Catherine. Cypher. Catherine. Thank you so much. And I was thinking, I really like to do this kind of streams, but I don't think that YouTube is the best platform. I don't like the idea to drive people away from YouTube, but we can probably organize something better and smoother on another platform. Something like Twitch, and maybe that could become something that I can do like that. I can do with more frequency, because I'm at the table every single day, and could be nice to talk with someone while working. And I was looking to a question. Marco, I'm planning on moving to Italy sometimes in 20... Oh, from the US. We are looking to Florence and Milan. I'm supposed to work in fashion. Are you currently in Italy? Any advice of living there? Ooh, that's... I'm not the best one to talk about that, because I practically escaped from Italy. No, it's not true. But I'm happily living in Ireland right now. And you are thinking to to beautiful destinations. Are you moving more for work or for just love for the country itself? Yeah, Twitch is where everyone is slowly going. It was really... Okay, I know who Cypher is from a single comment. I will not comment on that comment. That's an inside joke that is impossible to explain. Yeah, again, I'm not super fan of the idea of Twitch, and again, I'm not planning of moving the channel there. I love the edit videos. I want to, as I was saying, I want to deliver certain kind of contents and a precise kind of information, and I think that YouTube is the best platform. The best platform to do that. And I was thinking about Twitch again, just because I'm working super slowly talking with you, so I don't know if it's the best choice from a work point of view. But yeah, could be interesting. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, it's definitely the best day. Well, not at the beginning of the day. It was the worst shower of the season. But in this moment, it's beautiful outside. Again, I have to say, you are my heroes being here with me in a Friday evening of July. Yeah, exactly. It's to add something, not to switch. Again, on the topic of YouTube and Twitch. At least could be interesting to try. No, I don't have a spray booth. I have a mask that I'm not using right now because I'm talking to you, but with this kind of details, I don't have a lot of... well, I don't have anything of bouncing. I don't have odor or anything. But again, if I spray any kind of primer, every time you see me painting the black first layer, I have the mask on. Because in that case, I'm spraying just like this, without considering anything, without controlling the pressure. I'm just using the color catapult. I think that talking, we could be at the point where I have my lights in place. There are people who even make the recorded video and upload it in streaming, comment to people. Yeah, it's not a popular format from the point of view of the audience. I can understand that here I'm already at 2 hours and I talked constantly, and the work I did is not even a quarter of what I do in a 20 minutes video, so it's not for everyone. But again, for an extra, for something extra, for something different, or again, just to have company during the work. I'm doing this even if I probably go with a classic green glow. So I'm taking advantage of the white, almost white metal I have here to start creating an undertone for that. Yeah, exactly, like a Hangout and Paint kind of platform. Yeah, YouTube is definitely not done for the live stream. You can do it, but it's not the best solution. It's very clunky in all the setup, and you basically have to do everything you do with the video, description, banner, and I don't really like the studio. You can see that it's something I did later. Okay, because anything else after this is just overdoing. Oop. Okay, so let's check. It's a pleasure. The best reward, and I'm serious, again, that's work, but for me, the best reward of the work on videos and the channel is the flow of inspiration that is generating, because I can assure you that it's not only from my side to yours. Through the comments, you have a lot of incredible ideas, and I want to use them. I'm a super avid painter, but like everyone, I have moments where I don't feel the inspiration, I don't have the right idea. And with this kind of back and forth, it's been a year where every single day I have 4 great ideas and I don't have the time to do them all. You see that everything is a bit more balanced. Every time I push too much, and that's true for every kind of painting, when I was pushing only on the shadows, everything was more focused on that. While now that I introduced a second highlight, everything is a bit more balanced. Because of the overspray, because of the layering, because of the number of layers applied. And you can use that knowing that that you can push more on one side or another. If you want to create something more moody or something more moody in general, because moody can be in the light, can be in the dark. You can push more on one side or another. In this case, I was trying to copy the illustration, looking for a balance during the work. So I prefer to stop pushing on the shadow and move to the highlight. Now I know that this will be probably my maximum highlight with the airbrush at least, so I can do a couple of more shadows to really increase the sensation that this guy is really a huge thing. It could be 3 or 4 meters in height. And I think we have enough brown tones here. We have the yellowy sensation of sepia, more to catch the sensation from the illustration. We have the rusty tone that is also working here in the lights inside the joints. I think we can move to something more dramatic. But I'm probably losing sight of the illustration, because I was I was going to my usual warm magenta undertone, but there's nothing like that in here. So let's be faithful to this, because that was the main objective. And yeah, I want to stick to the brown. I want to have that, yeah, let's stick to the brown. And I'm still be able to use something that I love using burnt umber. Okay, we are again on the table here. I guess well, when you start something, you have several ideas and just can't. Do you have these, and if so, how to get past it? Yeah, I was saying that the inspiration from you guys, from the comments, from all the emails, all the messages, was a huge thing in terms of inspiration. It's something that I can't really remain without inspiration, because well, I can, but I don't have to, because again, this is my job. So I have to find the inspiration even when I'm not inspired to do that for myself, but you want to deliver always the best to the people that was so kind to commission you something. And that's already something that really helps, because sometimes you can feel that you are not in the mood to paint that kind of model, because again, it's not something that you want to add to your collection, but is a commission. And maybe you have this bit of resistance at the beginning, but in general, when I start painting, I always find something interesting, even if it's something that I really don't like. And it's rare. Okay, sorry, I do it off camera. Burnt umber, directly inside the airbrush, just straight from the pot. If you are starting, you can dilute it a bit. You can use Airbrush Thinner as water, and you can control the body of this super diluted ink using a bit of medium. That's because the thinner will add transparency in the same way as water can do to any other color. And with medium, you are compensating the extreme lack of surface tension and body. And since it's something neutral and transparent, you can't really alter the mix as it is. It's just a way to have a color that is a bit more controllable. And again, that's useful if you are a beginner in spraying inks, or if you are in a super difficult spot, like the last time I probably felt the need of medium was in the Black Templar video, when I was spraying the almost white on top of the black that was finished. It was the black I wanted at the end. In that there was a huge amount of thinner, and to compensate that, because there was so much thinner that was basically only alcohol with a bit of white, I added the glaze medium. Or the time before, I was painting the face of a girl, and I was adding only a bit of makeup around the eyes. That was another super critical spot where, even if I can control the inks with this super detailed precision, I didn't want to risk anything, because there were the eyes and all the work already done in there. So I moved the model around, and it's the same stuff I did for the first shadow, just to work inside what I already have there. And I lost a lot of time talking it. It's still a good thing, but I can do this step probably in half an hour and move to the brush and oils, washes. You saw how simple it was in if you go back to look at the time I spent on the actual spraying, it's almost nothing. I was thinking to add a final shadow in black, but there's, thanks to the last time I went on the illustration, there isn't something like that. So maybe I can use black more for the definition, but not for shadowing. I think we are there. Yeah, because I want to push more on the lights. That's the same of the illustration, white paper. I want to push on the whites. And the oils will bring everything down. So yeah, let's do like this. That's enough. Maybe a bit of here. But this will be probably another tone. It's difficult to decide where to stop. No. Guys, tell me to stop. Tell me to stop. I ask for that, but I'm not reading the comments, so totally cheating. Okay. This is Burnt Umber. Last shadow in Burnt Umber. Because it's still very compatible with the tones I have. If that mix of light and dark. I love Burnt Umber. He's becoming a meme. Oh, that's a good question about the inks and mixing. I mix a lot of inks, and I was in an online lesson 2 days ago. Tired. And since we are talking about this, exactly this question, I mix the skin tones like I did in the last video using inks. I usually don't mix them because, as you can see, I use inks and still I did it here with white to create the metal because I use them to cut the corners of mixing and diluting, more for that. And since most of the time I'm working with extreme transparencies, I still obtain a mix working like that, like spraying when I use the base of yellow to spray on top the red, that's mixing. You can do it totally by mixing, but with the transparency effect you can do it by overlapping. So I think to have a bit more control while doing that, because I have the visual modification of that color on top of the model, not only in the little pot. So these are my reasons why you don't see me using a lot of inks mixes. But yeah, in the lesson I used a red, blue and yellow ink to make the same stuff I did in the video, to show that you can easily mix them at any stage. It's just a matter of cutting corners. È un piacere, è un piacere. È un piacerone e quello viene un bellissimo nero, perché di nuovo il nero non è mai veramente nero. E adesso dovete fare olè! Ciao Nico dall'Olanda, un altro espatriato. Va bene, cosa facciamo? What can we do? If you still want to stay with me, we can switch to oils. We can switch to oils. Oils or blade? Oils or blade? Oils or blade? Well, it depends. I don't have all the inks of the Liquitex collection. At the end, they are only 36, but still, I have the ones you see me using all the time on the video. So I have a lot of browns, magenta, sub green, a couple of yellows. Yellow Orangezo is one of my favorite. Black, and yeah, a couple of other things, but violet, no more than that. Because again, you can mix, and you can mix on the model optically and by overlapping. So even through its odorless, it bothers me. I haven't seen that some people use a mascara filter. Yeah, I showed my professional mask with super filters at the beginning. If you don't like to smell white spirit, go with something like this. Oils, okay. Yeah, because you already saw a lot of airbrushing, and on the blade, I probably go with yellow, probably the golden fluo green I used in the God tier models. Oils. Change of palette. Let's move this one. That's tricky. You see me disappear like under the steps. Oils. Metal palette. Let's check what you can see here. Let's open a bit the view. Oils. So let's stay in the Blanche's palette. And Blanche's palette means a sepia, a reddish brown, something like probably not really burnt umber, but something lighter. What we have here? We can try ochre for sure. We can risk with the yellow also. Yellow, ochre. We can start adding some green notes. I'm just putting colors that I think suitable on the table, but I'm not using them all. There will be the red from the clothes, but that will be probably a super glossy Tamiya red. And well, black, it's always useful. Burnt umber, I think that burnt umber could be a bit too dark. A bit too much. I was looking if I have something lighter. Flash tone maybe? Yeah. I think we have more. Ooh, this one. No. That's not an oil. It's not oil. It was perfect. It was like a greenish gold tone, but we can do it later. And about that was this one. find yourself a tube of this one, green gold. It's a beautiful color. That's acrylic. That if you paint metallic metals, not metallic metals, but even metallic metals, and you want, it seems more greenish, but it has this glossy yellowish undertone. It's like old gold. That's beautiful. Green gold. Okay, that's more than enough to add some grime. Let's see how it is, this one. Ooh, that's reddish. Let's see this one. No, I prefer this one. Okay. So, that's already a first selection. This one for sure. That's more reddish than the first one I picked. Probably yellow is too much. Let's keep ochre. But I still want to check it. Yeah. Proper ochre. It's like a raw sienna. And that could be useful to blend this tone together. And here between the greens I was thinking to something more powerful, but that would be more the tone. That could be nice for the reflections from the green blade. I know that I didn't paint the green blade yet, but I can still, that's not the proper order of operation, but it's more interesting to do that. And no, this is too dark. I can use this. Burnt umber is too, it's too much. It's too dark. We can put it on the palette. Let's put it on the palette. Maybe in the shadows for the panel lining. For that could be super useful. Black for sure. So we don't need these. And I'll check the comments in the meanwhile. Oh, it's a pleasure. Yeah, almost a Frasetto palette. I was thinking the same in the back of my head. A notable difference between the Rage Norma and Mussini for Schmink, they are so extremely high quality that for our works in particular, that there isn't a meaningful difference. Winsor Newton Griffin one. No, I never tried the Griffin line. I used the what's called the professional one. That's pretty good. You noticed from the channel, I came back to oils recently, like last year, and before that I used a lot of. I use them mostly for washes. And for those, you don't really need extremely quality paints. It's still useful to obtain a very smooth kind of wash. But yeah, most of the time with the extreme dilution, if you have something mid-range with a good amount of pigments, you don't need to go crazy and spending a lot. But at the end, if you're using mostly washes, probably you're using 3 or 4 colors. So you can even invest in super high quality paints, but again, it's not really necessary. If you want to start blending properly with oils, thanks a million, Cal. Thank you so much. You can invest on something a bit more expensive. Thanks a million, man. Here you can see my selection of brushes for oils, and I have another pot up here. These are my favorites because yeah, it's different. As I said, sorry, it's that moment of the day. In the videos about oils, you'll use a lot more brushes than with acrylic paints, just because every shape has his own different behavior. That's still true for even for acrylics, but these different shapes with oils that need to be pushed and moved and really almost sculpted, they are more useful than that with acrylics. I'm licking this only because it's new. Never lick an oil brush. Okay. So I want to start, and let's take also white spirit. You know from the videos that I put white spirit here when I'm working with washes, but when I'm painting, I want to use the 2 cups, and these are made. These are made for proper oil palettes. You can clip them on a palette, you know, the classic palette that you can bring around. So you have the 2 cups with the cleaner white spirit and the dirty white spirit, and that's a couple of euros from an art shop. So, and if you want, you can do the fancy thing. Okay, let's put it here a bit. Let's put it here a bit. 1, 2. Paper. That's always something you need with painting with the brush. So let's use where is the chosen? This one. I like this a lot because it's short point, super stiff. For application is perfect, and I use it also to clean difficult spots. So if I have to clean around the line, this is almost like a sponge. And something for blend. Oh no, use it here. All my old brushes, natural sable brushes, natural bristles. Sable is the animal. Go into the collection of oil brushes because they are not useful for acrylics anymore or for a precise kind of work, but they are super smooth for blending. So they are a bit stiff because they are old, but still more gentle than any kind of synthetic brush. Okay, so we are in focus. Let's put this here. And I want to switch back to the comments. Guys, thank you so much. I'm super embarrassed. It's dinners on me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Voidjord. Thank you so much, guys. That's super appreciated. Again, I'm not doing the... It's ugly said like this way. I'm not doing the streaming for this, but it's super appreciated. That's time that I'm taking off work and it's fun for me. And this really helps. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, let's do something. Tell me if I talk too much. Tell me. For asking, but it's obvious that you have art schooling, and I'm really curious. I don't have an artistic background. I made a lot of. I went to a lot of workshops and private lessons with great painters. I studied a lot by my own. I experimented a lot. I was super lucky to be in a lot of modeling and painting clubs where I was really able to push my skills with the help of other painters. But I don't have an artistic background. I have a lot of books. I have a lot of sketchbooks and miniatures. in my background, but not art school. Okay, let's do it. So I want to start with the tones of my... It's not my first shadow, that was my first tone. But you could just... what you're working with. So curious about your background. There you got the good. I thought you were curious about painting, not about me. Oh, I have a scientific background. I came from medical school, and for the joy of my parents, I chose to be a miniature painter instead of a doctor. That's my story. Cause to a friend and wanna fix him to you. Okay. I used Google Translate to check my pronunciation of magenta. Probably it's too Italian, it's more magenta. How it is? That's your fault, I was painting. Let's ask it to Google. No, I'm offline. That's your fault. Let's see. Magenta. Uh-huh.
Magenta.
Magenta. Magenta. It's not so bad. So, I was applying oils before I was... Yeah, technically, I should be a doctor. But you can trust someone with this face being a doctor? I don't think so. I don't think so. No, io sono peggio pure, sono arrivato alla fine. Se almeno avessi detto a metà strada, ho detto no, non è la mia strada, io sono arrivato alla fine e non ho mai praticato, ho detto solo no, non fa per me. So you know the drill that with oils is super simple. I'm placing the tone where I want it. There's no intention of smoothness, there's no intention of fusing the application of thanks a million, Dave. Thank you so much. You don't talk too much. It's probably the best compliment. I'm always worried about the stream of consciousness. If you want more Italian, you have to ask me questions in Italian. You have to give me a reason. Thanks. Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, medical school. And I used to do a lot of... I don't know how you can translate them precisely. It's not repetition. It's like I was helping other students. So by sorry, I'm trying to do too much stuff at the same time. So I think my natural inclination to explain things comes from that, from a lot of lessons and helps to other students. I used to teach a lot of science and math. So, you know, that kind of mental state where you are prone to put yourself in other people's shoes and try to explain them through examples. Yeah, tutoring. That's the word. Sorry again, I'm not explaining what I'm doing. Application and blending. That's all. That's all about oil. Yeah, I like to explain. In painting, and I think I came up with this attending all these workshops and private lessons when I was at the beginning, and I noticed that, and it's not a fault. I don't want to do that kind of consideration. Is that there is really talented people that is able to do this stuff with the in a way that is so easy and so natural that sometimes they are extremely good painters, but it's difficult for them to teach the same stuff because it's so under their skin, it's so inside, literally inside their hands, that sometimes they don't succeed in delivering the information because and it's a good kind of ingenuity. They don't even know why it's working, but in their super talented hands, they're working. That's working. And I'm not one of those. I'm super flattered that you consider me those kind of talented people, but I'm not. I'm the kind of guy that needs to know why something works to make it work. And at that point, I have that kind of obsessive mindset that drives me to keep going and going with experiments until I get the concept and the technique inside my hands. But I totally assure you that it's not about an innate kind of talent. And that's why I push so much in the comments. And Ronald, thank you so much. Thanks a million to you. That's I don't even know how to say it anymore. He's so new, this thanks to me. That's so surprising. Thank you, guys. All right. Yeah, you know, like bringing back. I don't want to make myself too much of a character, but you know, like in every single anime and cartoon, when there is the genius and the one that doesn't give up, I'm not the genius. Yeah, but the color mixing and this kind of stuff, I wanted this. I want to have this so much that there was a time that I'm still painting every single moment of the day almost, but there was a time that it was really an obsession. Because I really realized that first for hobby, and it became a job only later, as a deformation of this obsessive passion, because Marco Rockley, that's the best compliment ever. Really the best one. I didn't find a better way to describe the situation, but anime are there for that. Okay, you see how easy it is. I went. Oh, Yukira Soma. I watched 5 seasons, no, 4 seasons and 3 episodes of Food Wars in a week. So I'm not painting all the time. You saw how easy it is. I could have skipped probably the airbrush step, but as I said, it's an underpainting, is a subtle underlayer, is a base for this work, but you see how smooth it is. And you can make it also not smooth, but I think that's the best example of why you should give a go to oils. So I put a lot of the super reddish brown. I want to alter a bit this situation. Oh, and I went totally off track, but you saw that I didn't use even a little bit of white spirit. Didn't touch it because wasn't really useful in this situation. Guys, thank you so much. Daniel, Josh, thank you. A cup of tea and Swedish week. Appreciate your time and therefore you wanted to let me know. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I prefer to have the teaching talent than the painting talent. I hope you can see that I really like to spread the joy of this hobby because it made so much for me. I'm so happy when I'm at the table, and I hope it's the same for you. Yeah, it has some of Kratos. Yeah, with the red note, why not? We can use that. So I'm reintroducing the yellowish note, and I want to push it in between the white. I made the wrong call. I need yellow. I need proper yellow. That's too dark. I need some yellow. So, again, same positioning, but probably it's too yellow, yeah. I wasn't completely wrong. Let's do something in between because it's a matter of saturation, not of tone. You see that I'm using white spirit only to mix and blend. Yeah, that's more likely. Yellow was a bit too powerful, but something like this, dirty yellow, why not? Oop, this yellow was super dense. Oh, lovely. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, you see, it's super relaxing. I can put a color and then talk with you and without worrying of making a mess. And again, in live, so there isn't any doubt, I didn't seal anything. Yeah, the GW kind of style, it's a commercial style because they need to sell the paint and they need to sell the idea that it's super easy to paint wargaming models. And again, the high quality models for them are a deformation or something that they put in a golden demon once a year, but the main thing is wargaming, and for wargaming is a good thing, a super easy and quick paint style, even if the heavy metal style is not quick at all, but let's say that it is. Me Bob, thanks a million. Go teach us, senpai. So I'm showing my otaku side more and more. It's becoming dangerous. No, not there. Not there. In here. And I'm using this kind of application and blending to show you more stuff in a shorter amount of time. But usually, if I have to paint something in oils, it's more like I have the brush loaded, so I put the tone here, 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 here. In every place I need it, and then I blend all together. What you are seeing here is a more controlled kind of application. So I'm working on little areas one by one. You really want to see robots and Gunpla, because that's a tunnel for me. If I start again that kind of modeling, it's risky. You are asking for something that you can't control. What approach to oil painting? I suggest you white spirit, the classical Trementine, or find these or blue. So let's start from this. I have a question from Carlo asking from the medium of oils. You can't use isopropyl alcohol. That's water soluble. You can use it for acrylics. You can't use it for oils. So that's out of question. And you can use turpentine, but it's as I said in the video, it's a good thinner, but it's a powerful solvent. So you have to know that its power of interacting with the oils themselves and the acrylics is totally different from white spirit, that is a bit weaker. The real difference is that turpentine is a bit less oily and greasy. That's the great difference. And why it can be more desirable than white spirit? Because white spirit, even if it's totally liquid, it has, being a derivative of petrol, a bit of oily finish, even when it's evaporated. But in general, I prefer to work with something weaker, because I can do stuff like that. For example, at any stage, because it's still quite weak, I can still do a wash. Okay, I can do a wash and apply it here. I don't know if you can see it. Let's check. Let's check a bit. Focus. So I was painting my shades here, and the beauty of White Spirit is that even with oils, if you don't rub it, if you don't scrub the surface with something, you can still apply a wash next to the same spot, and you are not taking off paint. And again, the evaporation time. But that's true also for turpentine. So you risk less with acrylics. You can move between the stages of oil painting and oil weathering in particular in a faster pace, and super safely switch back to the denser colors. Now this brush has too much White Spirit inside, but I think we can risk anyway, again, because it's just White Spirit. Ooh. Blend, blend, blend. Whoop. I see this green. Not everything has to be explained scientifically. What happens? Yeah, that's true. We learn. Everyone learns in different ways. As I said, that's really for me. But I think that, and I'm super sure that, especially on painting, the scientific way of explaining things is not the answer for everything. But as you noticed on the channel, the scientific way of how colors behave, that's out of doubt the way to go, because we are working with chemical mixes and chemical substances. That's what we're doing. And if you know that super simple and super common, that White Spirit doesn't affect acrylics, there's still a lot of people that think that I'm lying, that I'm doing it live. More than that, I don't know what to do. That is, it was an editing trick. But White Spirit is not a solvent for water-based paints, and that's the scientific truth. Yeah, exactly. They're not exclusive. When I was explaining color theory, you know that even in the video, for me, one of the main reasons of choosing a color over another is because you want to express something that is completely emotional, that is like yellow always express that kind of energy and life and vital action, and red is always passion and sex and fury and rage, and a touch of red, it's completely emotional in some spots. It's not scientific at all, but the knowledge of that oil red can't really ruin what you did with acrylics. You need that scientific knowledge, because if you browse oil paints on YouTube, you see a lot of people doing 3 days of draining the oil paints because someone told them that you have to wait 1 day to use oil paints, or you have to varnish everything 3 times. That's where I really want to push on the scientific side of the things. Yeah, is it possible to smoke white spirit and see golden demons? I never tried, but I think that if you really smoke white spirit, you'll see for sure golden demons, because you'll probably be in hell dead, completely dead. Okay, let's do something a bit more spectacular, because I'm using single colors here, but let's say that you are really in a hurry and you want to do a blend between these, and these. So we are moving from yellow to black. Oh yeah, you can do it. Let me only check if I'm in focus, because you are so into my beautiful face that you are not looking at the model. Okay. Probably a bit more. Yeah, I don't trust autofocus for this. So che use come Aquaragia? It's precisely that. White spirit is Aquaragia in italiano. White spirit is Aquaragia. E quella del ferramenta, la più economica che trovi. Aquaragia in odore. Take a look to this blend. Three colors in a row. The quantity, the relative quantity of the colors were made to obtain this behavior. So a good amount of yellow, main body of the reddish brown, just a bit of black going down here. And depending on the intensity you want to maintain and you want to achieve, you can work more inside the body of the colors you put on the model, or only on the edge. It's like layering and glazing, where you glaze on top of the edges of the lines. Here you can do the same stuff, you can push it more on the color itself. If you want a smooth blend all around, or if you want a stronger application and then just smooth out the edges. There's still a lot to do. There's still a lot to do, and we are already at 3 hours. Well, let's do a bit more. Let's do... Now, it's difficult to picture these and to let you really understand where to place them, but let's say that this was painted in the glowing green that we planned. You can use green and maybe pure yellow later. Let's find a place where you can see it. Let's do it on this leg here. Almost an OSL. I don't think so. Tamiya's lacquer thinner, and I have to check what there is on Tamiya's bottle. No, lacquers are a different. You can paint. You can use enamels thinner. That probably is again white spirit. not lacquers. Yeah, I was talking about Twitch probably a couple of hours ago. It's something that I'm thinking about, as I was saying, not really because I want to change what I do on the channel, but because I'm finding this kind of stream super interesting and super fun. I like to talk with you. Can you see the green note expanding from the point? In this moment it's super subtle because again, it's premature in this stage. As I said, I wanted to paint my highest point of white. I wanted to do a texture, but I wanted to show you that you can use oils also for subtle reflections. Well, you can use oils even for super strong reflections, but strong reflections are easier, just lines and... but making this subtle, you can do a filter, you can do a wash, but this is much simpler. So I'm not diluting anything. These are colors straight from the pot, applied and blended to make this greenish sensation that virtually will come from these. Gringo. You need green gold and bullets. It's becoming something really natural. And if you want to push more, let's yellow. I knew that I really needed yellow. Yeah, it's not dry brushing. It's not dry brushing. The sensation is that one, but it's not dry brushing. I'm doing super quickly, so it looks like dry brushing, but it's not. And it's looking a bit that way because I'm not using a strong directionality of those strokes, because that's really cylinder around. But yeah, let's say that let's do it here. Let's say that you want to blend something on a flat surface. And are you able to see it? Yeah, the point is it can seem the movement of a dry brush, but is totally something different. You can use something like that, but it's more like a stippling. If you need to blend super precisely, well, I didn't choose great colors to blend, but didn't choose. Yeah, it's good. Like if you want to blend something in between, it's more like a stippling. And you see how they are catching each other. So that's more if you need a blend in a super precise spot. While if you need a color to really go inside another, it's taking that color and pushing it. So it's a precise movement on this side that can be balanced with the extra movement on the other side if you want to stay localized in that spot. But yeah, think of it like literally taking the paint and moving it. So it's not only apply, it's always application. You have the paint there, and you are really dragging the paint where you want to create the blend. And then here, same concept. I'm dragging yellow inside green to make it precisely in one spot. But yeah, it's not dry brushing. Because if you do something that strong and that localized, you are almost able to clean it. So you don't want to really clean that spot because you are painting it. Yeah, weathering usually is the gateway to oil paints. Because would you do the same thing with flow extender and acrylics? I do that. Flow extender and acrylics. It's not exactly like this, but it's a good way to make wet blending a bit less stressful. So you can use a retarder, something like I have it. I have to keep it down. Usually I have it on my table. It's here. If I really have to do a lot of wet blending, big models, I do a lot of these. I use a lot of these when painting hair on busts, so long flowing hair, beards. That's really helpful. Not to do this effect, but just to make wet blending a bit easier. It will not be the same like with oils, because again, with oils I can do it like this, and then okay, dinner is ready, I'll do it later. Even with a proper technical retarder for canvases, you can do something like this. So it's a general approximation, like using the wet palette. As I said, wet palette was precisely to make acrylics work a bit more like oils. And it was a huge game changer even for canvas painters. Because I think that the idea that oil paints are difficult and messy comes from the fact that on canvases that can be really complex and messy, because you need a lot of equipment tubes, you need a larger quantity of linseed oil. There's people, proper canvas painters, buy linseed oils in 5-liter tanks, something like that. White spirit the same, all the different mediums, all the different... you have a lot of products to make oils behave in hundreds of different ways. But for our work, we need just a small amount of paint. And you see me use a lot of paint just because I love to see the color on the palette, but you need just a little drop because it's so dense and efficient in doing what it does. That's super cheap, super simple. You need only a piece of glass or a piece of metal as a palette. So I think we are overestimating the complexity of the medium because of other kind of applications. So it's another kind of second-hand kind of learning, but taking only the negative things. No, I was using green. I was doing the green. And again, it's not the time to do this green note, but I wanted to show you what you can do. If you're one of those that really don't want to buy an airbrush, oils are probably what you need to have the same kind of possibilities, because yeah, you can totally do everything with a brush. But my idea is that this doesn't have to be a reason of suffering, a reason of losing time, and you have to enjoy this hobby, you have to enjoy painting models, and even if you know that I don't like the GW style, that extreme speed sacrificing everything else, you can still have a lot of speed, a lot of instant gratification with the proper tools. Is there a brand you go for usually? For super advanced oil painting, I go with. I don't know why it's in my area. It's super easy to find the Mussini line, but not the Norma. So one of the two. They are the same in terms of extreme quality. So I go for that. For most of the time, I use Winsor & Newton oil paints, and I had the chance to buy the Abteilung line, not the whole line, few colors from the Abteilung line. That's why today I have a lot of tones of that with a huge discount, and I'm testing them, and I'm pretty satisfied about these paints. They're not really any different. Yeah, my style is much faster than GW style. No, for GW style, I'm not meaning. I'm not talking about the heavy metal style, the proper, super refined heavy metal style for box arts. I'm talking about base layer, general wash, and most of people doesn't do all the edge highlights. That's fast because you are not doing anything. You can do base layer with a spray can, wash everything, and you are done. That's objectively fast. If you need only that, and it's good for you, I can't really push that since I'm all about teaching and pushing for a better painting. So with the greens, here whether you choose not to use the green ink. So, going into the greens here, why did you choose to not use the green tones to get a transition? I didn't use green just because I wanted to show you something different from my usual airbrushing. So we switched prematurely to oils to show you what you can do. And I'm using oils to do the OSLs, but usually, yeah, probably I would go with the airbrush because I can be even faster with that. But I want to show the possibility of a medium that I'm still not really pushing 100% on the channel. So since we are here today, I went with that. With the warm shadow reason, no, the green was just the reflection from the ideal weapon. So these should be. You have to imagine these in full bright green. So I'm trying to catch those kind of reflections. Just trying to put models on the table to play the game. Speed painted, but if I'm mistaken. Yeah, again, it's the topic of you have to know why you are painting. When you are good with that, when you make peace with that, it's the best thing you can do, because if you sit at the table knowing that you want to paint for a competition, you can't take a single shortcut. There aren't shortcuts with that kind of painting. You can still paint fast. Like, for example, for some people it's shocking that knowing that when I start doing a bust, and I didn't do so many busts recently. I consider a bust a work of 20-25 hours. So it's still pretty quick, considering especially that I'm able to paint 8 hours a day. So probably in 2-3 days I can come up with a full bust. And So still pretty quickly, because maybe I'm first sketching, then doing a lot of stuff with the airbrush, then going back with the brushes. But you are not really taking shortcuts. You are doing a lot of stuff with the maximum level of efficiency, but you know that you can't cheat in that. But if you know that you want just to paint, just to play, and you need a bunch of simple necrons with a spray can, do it. There's nothing wrong. But you have to be conscious that they are meant to do only one job. And I saw people with how can I put it without being offensive? Like doing a very simple job, like spray can and maybe a general wash. And then finding them surprised by a different quality in other people's models and saying, how they do it. They just invest a bit more time. So if you want that, you have to be ready to invest a bit more. But if you make peace with your style and with the objective of your painting, just to lower the standard. Or if you take a look at, he's not here with me sadly, but my War Machine army, it was speed painted, not like I do on the channel, because I can do that kind of speed painting for skirmish games and little squads, but proper army, if you check the quality of those, they are pathetic. But I needed those models only to play with. It's not an easy process. But here I think it's the two divider. People that want to paint are people that want to paint armies. No, I don't think so. It's a divider. People who want to paint art and people who want to paint armies, because you can paint armies at art level. It's just a different quantity, and it's something you can see in. Often in with the armies on parade, there are some beautiful conversions in the armies. No, it's just a different kind of canvas. Because you can be a painter aiming for art, but never paint a bust. You don't have to paint a bust to be an artist painter or aiming for the maximum level of quality. You can totally paint a gaming model to an higher level. Or an army, because I put also conversions in the count of the art level. For me, the real divider is always the time and effort you want to put in what you are doing. And if you want to have an army tomorrow, you have to accept the limit of your need of an army tomorrow. Only that. Yeah, exactly. Oh, and again, I love to do the example of my War Machine army. And by the way, it was Khador. I basically had every single model in 4 copies. I was a very avid collector of Khador models. And yeah, I was exactly in that state. I wanted to play quickly. In like 2 months, I had all the catalog of the Khador army. And that was the objective. Then I took I used some tricks to make it look better from a distance. So it was still a bit impressive on the field, but if you watch a single model, you can see the lack of depth and contrast and general quality. Whether I want to take 3 weeks away. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong in that. Oh, and every time you see me painting a model a bit better, the single model, I play with every single one of them. So for skirmish games, I like to play with beautiful models. You see how the light with a bit of yellow is becoming a bit more... Ho 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 ho. There is a man of taste in here. You are talking about Machine and Krieger. Oh yeah. Yeah, because I didn't explain the whole tank stuff, but it wasn't really about real tanks. So yeah, Machine and Krieger was a huge part of my armor obsession. If I want an army, my issue is the time that takes to ship it to you and to complete. So if you want that kind of super instantaneous gratification, there are ways to do it. Well, now see, that's the inspiration I was talking about. I can do a video, and I was thinking about it a few days ago, on the fastest way possible to have an army. Not a speed paint, but something more, like a huge bunch of compressed tricks to make an army in like 8 hours. I know tricks about spray cans. Juicy tricks. Oh, I put on the palette a bit of white. Now we are talking and I'm working like you are not even interested in what I'm doing. I want to put a bit of white on top of this yellowish reflection, just to push a bit more. We moved to weathering to OSL, but yeah, probably to make a plan of these videos, because if you follow me in this general madness is a risk. Oh, and we are reaching the 4 hours. I think it's time to close. Thanks a million for this push on the stream. Yeah, we are making me really want to do this more. I think that if you accept my talking of everything at the same time, I can probably properly work while talking, because I don't feel that I produced everything I wanted to produce here, but you get the point. K2 paints from everybody, artist grade, acrylics, more coverage. Well, I don't know, Jokey, if you entered just at the end, but these are oil paints. So these are not only, this is not only a different brand, but it's different kind of paint, completely different kind of paint. Yeah, I do this effect after my videos. A lot of people go buying paints. So I wasn't really working in a super focused way, but I spent a bit of time up here starting to do an OSL with oils. I built a super simple soft contrast of green, yellow, and a bit of white. It's still very undefined and super smooth. It's just the beginning, but I was totally lost in the conversation. And but you see that effect is starting to build up. In the next stages, the process is to make these sharper and more defined, exactly like with acrylics. With acrylics or with the airbrush and inks, I probably would use a spray from in a couple of spots here, and then added later, or another spot of white with the airbrush, and again another layer of green, or maybe just move to make the reflections with acrylics. And at the end it took me the same time, and this is more localized. To make, if you want to make a sharper light, this is probably a better way with oils or acrylics, doesn't matter how to do it. If you spray with the airbrush, even if you are super localized in a spot, you still have that overspray that can be a good thing if you want a general spreaded light. But if you want something super sharp that makes something like laser or neon light, if you want something super sharp in a line without affecting all the rest, and I was going for this kind of effect here, it's better to do the OSLs with a brush. Again, doesn't matter with oils or acrylics. And probably could have been easier to understand with the weapons making the source of the light, but again was to show the versatility of this medium and the fact that I'm doing all this work with 3 colors. The same with acrylics, but here is more efficient because I don't need a lot of mixing here on the palette. I can do it here on the model, so I'm skipping some steps, and again the blending is so easier that this is really for everybody. It could be a really good step to understand a bit better the behavior of these colors in a more organic way, because with acrylics we are tending to prepare our pools if you are working with a proper palette, and then bring every single tone of that pool on the model. While here you are really painting, you are moving paint and making it work like on a canvas in a bit more fluid way. It's a matter of preferences. I don't want to convert anyone, but I want to show options. Let's see. Enjoy. Thank you very much. Of course, that would be dumb to think. Just into something, of course. I think that there is some kind of discussion here that I totally lost. Thanks a million. Don't worry, I was just explaining. Don't worry at all. Yeah, probably I need recaps around if I want to do something this long. Also to explain why I'm using these colors and why too late I'm converted. Nice. Oh, la guida galattica. Ciao ragazzi. Lascio tutto qui. In realtà ho chiacchierato come uno psicopatico tutto il tempo, quindi non lo so quanto sia efficiente. Spero che abbia avuto un senso. I was saying in Italian that I hope that all these had a sense, because I started with a plan. I really wanted to arrive again for all the people that starting to be on the stream only at the end. I was trying to do something in Blanche's style. So I wanted to use this kind of references to create these white armor, whitish sensations, and subtle sepia undertones, and a lot of green, desaturated green, and also a lot of red that I wanted to use in the clothes. At the end, with all the talking and with all the super interesting questions, I ended up with a quarter of the work. I did a lot of airbrush work trying to create the first shadows and the white that now is a bit swallowed inside the oil tones, but here on the palette I wanted to add white to complete this progression. And then I lost track of time doing this sketch of an OSL with oils. So still everything is sketchy and super simple, and I hope you can understand where I want to go again using the reference. But yeah, with all the talking in 4 hours, I wasn't able to arrive anywhere. I still hope that you enjoyed this time together. I really had a lot of fun with you, and now more than ever I want to give a bit of space in a way or another to these kind of streams, because it's really fun. It's really something that I like to do, and where I can interact a bit better with you. And I really think that could be useful with maybe with a schedule, with a plan, with a more compact way. Thanks a million. Thank you so much. So I hope to see you next week on the channel for the one miniature infinite styles. That probably would be the title, or at least 3 alignments for the RPG players. And yeah, we have to find a way to do this more often, and on a platform that can let me do more stuff, because I have to constantly switch on OBS to check again what I'm seeing, because here on the studio I have just a microscopic window to check focus and everything else. But thanks a million, guys. Have an awesome weekend. Have a lot of fun. I can't repay you for a loss of Friday, but yeah, have an awesome weekend. See you next week, guys. Love.